Hello everyone, welcome to Viewers Comments number 5. I've been having quite a lot of good feedback from you guys. I've been moving house and doing all sorts of things. You may have seen some of the live streams we've been doing. If not, check them out. Before we begin, I'm going to eat a tiny little apple pie. Then we can get going, because sweet things are the stuff of life. Tiny little apple pie. Yum, 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 yum. Okay, first one from Ola Conley Bode on the Claret 2 pre-review. Said, excellent review, thank you. What microphone and preamp interface captured the conversation between the two presenters? So obviously that wasn't the Focusrite 2 pre, that was the main studio rig. The main studio rig, especially for voiceover, and what I'm using right now is I'm using a Sennheiser MKH416 shotgun microphone. Also often referred to as the Hollywood mic. It's kind of for a long time, a lot of Hollywood studios use the Sennheiser 416. It gets a good, warm, full sound and rejects a lot of the outside noise. Can't really ask for much more for filming. And it also just sounds great. I mean, there are better mics now from Sherps, but you're talking thousands upon thousands of pounds to get those. And I don't have that. And the preamp was at the time using one of the Focusrite Octo Pre Mark II Dynamics preamps, so studio outboard gear, kind of medium tier. It's a little tricky having a shotgun in between two guys talking. I'm pretty sure that was it, if it was the yeah, it would have been the shotgun microphone for that video. Question from Paul Callahan about the Line 6 Helix Native. Does it come alive with IRs? My simple answer to that is yes. I thought that the inbuilt cabinets served a purpose, but if you really wanted to make the unit come alive, custom impulse responses were the way to go. And the ones I really recommend are the Celestion Plus impulse responses. Excuse me, that's the pie coming back. The Celestion ones are the most real sounding impulses that I've heard. If you want something that's kind of caricatured, larger than life, maybe something by Rosen Digital might work for you, but the Celestion stuff is some of the least nasty sounding, ready to go impulse response stuff that I've seen, and I've done several videos about those, so check those out. So I made a video that was talking about depression, and I got quite a lot of great feedback from you guys, so thank you so much for that. I must be quite clear though, as far as I know, I don't generally suffer from depression. It's just I hadn't had a day off in a long time and I was really starting to feel it. And so I did that video about depression, and funnily enough, the minute I talked about it, and you could see by the end of the video I was feeling a lot better, and as soon as I left my house to go to my job that evening, I felt so much better. So I'll give you a little bit of the feedback that I got, but most of it is kind of more going out to people actually suffering from depression. It's just something that I felt was I was in a good place to talk about it when I was feeling a bit low. So, let's see. From Intrepgun, thank you. In the US where I'm from, 1 in 5 adults will suffer a serious mental hardship. Depression, onset mental illness, psychotic break. These are all very real things. Few take it seriously until they have to. And moving studies suggest it's one of the most stressful things a modern person can do. Take care of yourself, we can always wait for content. Again, that's really appreciated. And I got a lot of comments that were very similar to this. I don't want to read them all out because some of them were quite long. But it's funny, if anything, I've made more content since I've moved than beforehand. It just so happens that I just got quite run down. But now the move is done, I'm in a new house, we've got the live streaming set up, I'm still in the studio. And I'm ready to do more than ever. I've got 2 videos ready to edit. I'm doing another live one tonight. I'm filming this now. I've got another one hopefully to do this evening. It's going well. So yes, thank you everybody for pitching in, because talking about things like depression is one of the best antidotes to that feeling of things like that building up. So yeah, if you know anyone who's starting to feel down, if you're starting to feel low yourself, just talk to people, not necessarily professionals, just talk to people about it, and you'd be surprised how much that alone can take a weight off. Funny one on Mac versus PC. PC is out of the question if you want Logic ever since Apple bought eMagic. Yes, I did say, like, Logic is on Macs. And if you're still using eMagic Logic, you are way behind. And honestly, in my opinion, don't go for Hackintoshes. I mean, they look kind of cool, but they're so unstable that it's really, instability cripples you trying to do a job. And for people like me, this is a job. If you want to have fun playing around with Hackintosh stuff at home, cool. If you have an album to finish and you have a set amount of time, don't go down that route, because things might crash, things might not work right. If you're running OS X on Apple hardware, that's one thing. If you're running Windows on a PC, that's one thing if you've got them set up right. There is no guarantee with the whole Hackintosh thing. I mean, it's got hack in the name, for it's like, it's a hack. It's a community-run way to twist software that was never meant to run on set hardware. It can work, there is no guarantee, and when you do things that have time limits, money limits, any kind of limits, you can't be relying on that. One from the 6L6, do power amp tubes make any difference? Leighton Beatty says, I've found that power tubes do less for the sound tone than the preamp tubes. Yes, this is exactly what I was trying to say. Is there an audible difference? I find it very hard to tell with power tubes. Maybe there is. If there is, it's really, really, really subtle, unless you're pushing them so hard they're about to go bang, which you do that with some amps, maybe lower wattage amps, maybe something that's got like a single output tube, maybe an EL84 or something like that. I'm sure you could tell the sonic difference there, but I keep saying these tubes, valves, whatever you want to call them, are made to a specification. They are made to fit a design brief. They can't be that different from each other because they're made to be a certain way. So any subtle differences you hear must be so subtle. And I've had people saying, oh, well, you can tell more on a clean amp. Again, I completely disagree. I think it's confirmation bias that you've bought an expensive tube, therefore it must sound good. Because it's such a subtle difference. Tubes are still used in a lot of audiophile hi-fi stuff because they sound so clean and clear within their normal operating range. So if you're not pushing them outside of their ranges, they shouldn't be any different sonically. Quick one from Paul Bordelon about the Focusrite Claret review that we did again. These guys take a while to get started, but I probably learned more about this audio interface from this video than any other. Well, thank you, Paul. And that's kind of the aim that we're trying to go to with a lot of these videos. We're not necessarily the most flashy, in-your-face, bang, bang, bang kind of YouTube channel. We're trying to go for depth wherever possible. A bit of almost scientific kind of, try and do a kind of a measure, maybe some blind tests, maybe try and be as methodical as we can, because we want people to learn about gear. We don't want people to be like, oh wow, that sounded good, and then get one and be completely disappointed. We want to try and show off gear in everything that it does, because it might be that things I wouldn't always use a piece of equipment for is what you specifically want it for. So if I just did the thing that I like about it as the quick 3-minute, look at this, it's great, bah, 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 then you'd miss all the other details, and the thing that maybe you would want it for would be missed entirely, and then why would you watch my videos? So there are guys out there who do these kind of quick bang, bang kind of things. I'm trying to be a little more in depth with some of the stuff that I'm doing, trying to be a bit more techie. I know it's a little bit more niche. My channel isn't growing as fast as some guys like, Fluff, Glenn Fricker, Spectre Sound Studios, but I'd rather keep it kind of, straight down the line and honest. And honest is probably the wrong word. I don't mean those guys are lying. I mean just trying to be a bit more detailed at the expense of the wow factor. I mean, if it's something you enjoy, great, but it really has to be as much detail as I can possibly fit in there for you guys, because like the tutorials that I've done, you may have seen, like the Reaper tutorials, I tried to go step by step in as much depth as possible, and the Reaper 101 video has been one of the most popular that I've done in a long time. So I'm going to try and get as much detail in the videos as I can. I hope everybody understands. Oh, here's a great one. That click in the corner is something that's new on iOS 11 actually. I'm probably going to go back and do some more iOS videos pretty soon, because the newest feature for iOS 11 is screen recording on the iPad itself, which I'm very excited about. There's a feature, you can Google how to do it, I might show you at some point. But if you record the screen on the iPad, you don't then need to have it constantly hooked up to a Mac, which is kind of the reason why I stopped doing it. Is I'm mostly a PC guy, and the Mac that we had in the office is now elsewhere, so I didn't have that facility, and now I do again. So there's going to be more iPad videos coming from me. Anyway, on to Hector Rodriguez's question. If both me and someone else are using Reaper to record, but she's on a Mac and I'm using Windows, will we still be able to exchange files? Yes. Yes is the answer. One of the great things about Reaper is the project file does not care if you're on Windows or OS X. It doesn't even care if you're on Linux. There's now actually a Linux version of Reaper, so if you want to be on Linux, you can do that. There's a potential issue if you've got different plugins, different VSTs or whatever to someone Windows Mac, but the actual audio files and MIDI files and everything where they are will be perfectly right between Windows and Mac, and me and the guys in the office have done that quite a lot in production, and it's never been an issue. One of the best things about Reaper for me, it's completely platform agnostic, doesn't care. Okay, here's a question from James Cassidy that's kind of inspired a video that I'm going to try and do the filming for tonight. It'll take me a while to edit, but hopefully this is something that I can do. I was watching the Celestion speaker shootout again. When you show the two different V30s, the 8 and the 16 ohm, would that be comparative just to the ohms of the speakers or to the cabinet? His Mesa 212 has two 8 ohm speakers in series. If he wired the two 8 ohm speakers in parallel to get 16 ohm, would I still get the sound of the 8 ohm speaker compared to a 16? Now, here's the interesting thing. It's a fair question, and as far as I know, well, for the speaker shootout that I was doing for the Celestion speakers, the 8 ohm speaker and the 16 ohm speaker were completely different, so that was nothing to do with the actual cabinet itself. That was entirely the speaker that I was changing. So I had to, of course, change the selector on the amp to match it, so that the 8 ohm speaker was matched to an 8 ohm load and the 16 ohm speaker was matched to a 16 ohm load, 1616. And so in a 212 cabinet, if you have two 8 ohm speakers, in theory it shouldn't change the sound very much whether you wire them in series as 16 ohm or in parallel as 4 ohm. Parallel would be 4 ohm, series would be 16 ohm. Because if you add them in series, it adds them all up. If you do them in parallel, it divides it. So it wouldn't be parallel 16, it would be parallel 4, and be careful with that if you're going to rewire a cabinet. So I'm going to try that at some point, hopefully tonight, maybe another time soon, where I'm going to use exactly the same cabinet, same microphone, same position, same reamping, and I'm going to rewire it so it's in series, 16 ohms. Then I'm going to take the wires out the back, rewire it parallel at 4 ohms, and then make sure the amp is set accordingly, and not change a single setting, and see if there's any difference sonically. There may be, there may not be. I've heard from people that there's a slight difference, but I'm beginning to wonder if the difference is that slight. Maybe it's just hearing bias. So it's going to be one of our scientific style videos. So we're going to do that as soon as we can. Quick question from Noki Janua, modifying an SM57. If I remove the transformer on the SM57, will it make it a high impedance microphone? No, it will make it a low impedance microphone. It makes the impedance so much lower. That's what causes problems with because it makes a much bigger impedance difference between the microphone and the preamp. That's one of the reasons why you get a big volume drop. But that's what it is. The impedance goes lower, not higher. Last one for today, one from the Audion ID 4 review by Overcold. Can you suggest a good starting point for dialing in the gain on the DI input if I want to distort the tone later with an amp sim? I somehow got the feeling that adding gain at DI level on this interference causes some hissing/noise. Yeah, you don't want to be adding too much gain to the DI track if you can help it. I mean, on the ID4 it doesn't add much noise at all. It's a very quiet DI for an interface DI. In fact, for one of its size and class, it is the best that I've used. But yeah, lower is generally better. If you can have it so that if you strike a big chord and the chord rings out around -18, so maybe the peaks are coming to -12, maybe -6 at a spike, but not solidly up there, that's what I would suggest to go for, because then that -18 level is a solid, consistent kind of level. -18 is kind of analog 0, as it were, and it's a good starting point. If you're then finding that you're not getting enough preamp gain in your virtual amp, you can always crank the digital input into that amp, and that will be what interfaces with your amp best. You may also have found, if you've been running too hot an input into a DI box or into the interface, that the virtual amp doesn't react like the real amp does, and that's probably because you're feeding too much level into it. It's like running a guitar into a tube amp at triple the volume and it just coming out really muddy. A lot of the boost pedals that you're seeing now that make the input hotter on tube amps also in their design take some low frequencies out, because if you try and push low frequencies too loud you just get a big flubby mess. So pedals like the Horizon Devices Precision Drive, for example, that's got quite a low cut in there, which I think you can mess with it depending on how you set the pedal up, that will make that tone not just louder for the amp but also clearer, whereas when you're going into a DI box you don't get that, so louder is not better. If you were then to reamp that tone out to an amp, you could put something like a Precision Drive in front of that amp and that would work perfectly well. But yeah, clipping or going near clipping in the digital world is not ideal, and you'll find that your mixes are better if you can keep well away from those peaks. You'll be surprised once you've got 10 guitar channels going, -18 sounds really quiet, but if it sounds quiet, turn up your headphones, not the input. By the time you've got 10 guitars going or more, or whatever it is that you've got running, they will add together and they will make a full loud sounding mix. One of the biggest problems that I see with younger engineers is they crank the input volume and then they have all the faders down because everything's clipping. That's not the right way to do it, and it's something to talk about with gain staging, but that's a topic for another day. I think that's all we've got time for today, so I'm going to stick around here and I'm going to film a viewers comments number 6 to go out probably in a week or so. I know you're supposed to keep it a secret, but I may as well be honest with you. I mean, I'm already here, I've got quite a few more comments here, so I'm going to do those so I'm not just overloading you with 40 minutes of viewers comments. So there's going to be more videos coming out soon. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this, feel free to check out our other videos, as you can find here, or check out our Facebook and Twitter, or our Patreon page, which helps us to make more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.